Welcome to the Crazy Wisdom podcast. I've got Aurelia Gianluca. Did I get that right? Did I get your name right? Yeah,
That's
got it.
that's all right.
Okay. An economist, a full stack data guy, works in finance and retail and with AI. He's also a data engineer, a developer, does machine learning algorithms, and on the non-science part is into human consciousness and psychology. Actually, that's a great place to start. Do you think that do you think there is a strong difference between science and psychology? Do you think psychology is a science?
Very interesting question. Do I think that psychology is a science? Well, it all depends on if you're applying the proper terms. My grandfather actually was a great psychologist. He established the Day of the Psychologist here in Argentina, and he had very strong opinions about it. He has a doctorate degree on the United States just regarding that topic. And he would say that psychology is a science independent the branch. For example, analysis, Freudian psychoanalysis, he would say that it's just mumbo jumbo. He used to hate it. But if you're touching more of an experimental approach, for example, I have here right now in my hands the Daniel Kahneman Think Fast and Slow book, psychology book. This one you could call science, science of psychology and human biases.
Very cool. A lot we can go into there. First is just I love how Argentina is like it play. It feels like eccentrics are allowed for here, and people with strong opinions are allowed for here. And I think it's very similar in the United States, but I don't think it's very similar anywhere else in the world. Like I think that Argentina and the United States are, and maybe Canada and a little bit of Brazil, but more so in the United States and Argentina. It's like maybe New Zealand and Australia too, but not really to the same degree as the United States. And I was so surprised to discover that Argentina, not knowing much about it before I lived here, is like that, where eccentrics are allowed to have strong opinions, which I really enjoy. Is that accurate? Do you think that that's accurate representation?
Well, the president itself is
Yeah,
an eccentric
exactly. Yeah.
person, so 100% is an accurate statement. I'll go even further than that. Eccentricism here is well regarded, but always with Argentina, what I would say that is the stands out is in the way that we communicate in non um, linear fashion. We apply what it's called in mathematics as non-monotonous systems,
Yeah.
which means that you can be with an Argentinian who can joke very profoundly, like that we can get carried out extremely, like very eccentrically, and at the
Yeah.
same time we just turn around and we're a 100% a complete
Hmm.
ubiquitous and straightforward uh and organized it's themselves. So the broad topic is that we Argentinians as a culture are very emotionally mature, and we do have a lot of emotional intelligence to share with the world.
Which brings in the AI stuff because what you said is
Sure.
not the same in the United States. In the United States is a lot of ways very linear and very like it's like the Protestant kind of like northern climates. It's going to get really cold in the winter, so we got to figure our shit out before it gets really cold. As whereas Argentina has Catholic and Italian and Spanish type of thing, where it's like they don't have to really worry about the winter, and it's Catholic. How do you think? Have you spent a lot of time in the United States? Do you think that the Catholic versus Protestant thing is a really foundational thing and how we're different?
I very much like this question because you're going to the root of the topic. What does make Americans Americans, and what does make Argentinians Argentinians?
Yeah.
For sure, there must be that 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 intertwine between religious and the people who make the country themselves. For sure, I do agree. Religion shapes up culture and culture shapes up
Yep.
individuals.
Yep.
So it is a very good assumption. I don't have any data to give you around it, so but I do tend to agree with you. But if it were the complete picture, the rest of South America would fit into that, and it's not
Hmm.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, and I love also because I spent a lot of time in South America before coming to Argentina, and was very surprised that coming here and hearing beforehand, they everybody thinks they're European in Argentina. All Argentines think they're European, but they're South American. But then coming to find out, oh, there is a little bit of Europe here too, and it's also in a way that the United States is not European at all. Like maybe like Montreal would be considered the closest kind of thing in Canada. But there's something European here, and this goes back to like how the eccentricity. I think that like Borges and all these interesting characters in Argentine history and culture. It's like it's it, I love it because I'm a bit eccentric myself, and so I didn't think there was anywhere else in the world that I could find where like I could essentially fit in sort of easily. And Argentines allow for other people to fit in as well, where it's like not like Japan, where like I'm never fitting into Japan. It's just like non-starter. What do you think?
Well, that's extremely accurate, and I love that that you're bringing those topics because Borges is a really important figure in my family themselves.
Mm,
Uh, they love it. Here, as Argentinians, in the way that we think and the way that we have shaped our our culture, it's very regarding this kind of individuals that um, that we can say that uh, do shape the culture in a way that it's very interesting to call upon. And for example, I think that's something that Argentina has something unique. I don't know if you have ever explored it yet. Is the music.
mm,
Here, our music it does have that romantic,
mm,
serious, emotional tone of
mm,
very characteristic of the European, but at the same time, with an extremely light-headed and
mm.
broader or indirect way more regarding the Latino, right? And you
Interesting.
will find it in characters such as, I don't know, Los Redondos, for example, or yeah, and Tango themselves, and Cerati, Spinetta. You'll find those there, and here in Argentina, and if you take a closer look into people, into the Argentinian, I'm a very eccentric, but in a weird way here in Argentina. Many Argentinians tell me that I am not 100%
Well,
Argentinian,
yeah,
and
I
I
want to hear
tend
that.
to agree with
Why?
them
Why is that?
because we Argentinians are have this lightheadedness, and
Yeah.
I am very embedded into the global culture.
Uh,
That's in the way that the content that I consume, the books that I read. I'm a very uh, worldwide kind of person. But in Argentinian culture, I am a black sheep, we'll
outsider.
say. And no, not an outsider. No, one, no, not exactly. But I do have my eccentricism
Mm,
in that sense. And what does distinguish the Argentinian is that we consume a lot of extremely niche and Argentinian content. We have a huge suburban culture which is humongous.
mm,
Like there are places in Argentina that are 100%. It was just the place that someone lived in,
mm,
and it's a monument. Like people go and take pictures on
mm,
that place. For example, the Cerati house, which is in front of the Alto Palermo.
mm.
Have you ever seen that place?
No, I'm writing it down. I'm gonna go check it out. Mm,
Yeah, you should totally go, and you will see people um uh just oh no, Charlie Garcia, my bad. Charlie Garcia department in Palermo, and you will see that people will just go to that place and start taking pictures, and the gate is full uh, of stickers and notes to him, And the same with our political figures and and the poetry. We are, I would say, one of the top producers of culture in the world, and we are just, the world is just starting to notice that.
Yeah, I know.
I think that
Yeah, this is the craziest thing about because I've for a long time I've been going to Brazil, and I've been going to other countries, and Brazil has a lot of soft power for its compared to its hard power basically. The United States has a huge amount and sort of is becoming more and sort of becoming less, and it's really interesting. The United States, the change to the soft power. China has essentially zero soft power, but now recently I find that culture, and we could probably go into this, is that culture has this element of subtle power recognition. So like everybody wanted to be Rome for 1,000 years
yes,
after Rome fell. Everybody tried to say that they were the Romans. Like they like the Holy Roman Empire. You had the Tsar of Russia, which is Caesar. Like everybody was trying to be Roman, even though the Rome had failed. And so there's this like subtle power dimension of culture, and the United States has this. And I'll get to Brazil and Argentina after, hopefully, if I remember. So, and the United States has this sort of soft power empire thing. Until recently, China didn't have too much soft power. But now that everybody realizes where all their shit is getting made and it's high quality and the robots are coming and China owns all of it, I think there is actually a huge amount of soft power accruing to China based on the fact that they just are making everything now.
I would
Yeah, go for it.
I would go to cite more concrete examples,
Mm.
which are, well, Japan in the early
Yeah,
2000s
yeah.
and Korea in the early 2010s.
Mm.
The world has exported that culture, and now everyone know what K-pop is.
Yeah,
And the pop artists
yeah,
of Korea are, and there's an entire subculture of young people that will try to speak Korean just for the sake of being part of that culture, and that is
yeah,
humongous power.
yeah,
And nowadays there is a lot of Dubai. Dubai is also
yeah,
rising as a kind of a cultural hub.
yeah.
It's a more of a global kind of, but the world is like, you would look at people and they would fit into this Dubai aesthetic,
Mm,
Dubai lifestyle,
mm,
Dubai way of expressing. The even, and now Dubai has starting to leverage that power and is starting to sell products like the nowadays everyone is crazy about this Dubai chocolate and
yeah.
Dubai uh and it's like Dubai candy, and it's like, why are we so, what is that so special? Well, because it's belonging, it's part of the human emotion, and we humans are social creatures. And Argentina is just starting to
Yeah,
realize
why was it
the
hidden?
humongous potential. Well, because we are so emotional and between ourselves.
Yeah.
But just give you an
Introverted. Yeah.
example,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're very introverted, and that's the thing. There is, have you ever visited the Evita grave?
No.
You know who Evita Peron is?
No. Well. Yeah. No. Of course. Yes. Of course I do. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Evita Peron was
Yeah.
the wife of Peron, which is the most important political figure in the Argentinian history.
Yeah.
And and if you go there, is she's in the Recoleta cemetery, you will see people crying in their grave, in
Wow.
her grave,
Wow.
like, and they will go and it's full of flowers and it's always people there, and people is crying and just asking favors to her. She's a dead saint
Yeah. Let's
to
talk.
many
That's
people.
really interesting because that's. I've only recently. It took me 2 years to see all the plaques of the saint of Buenos Aires, Lujan. Lujan is the saint, right? Of
Yes.
and so it's this really beautiful plaque with a woman who has a halo and then these like things like spiking out of it. It's really beautiful. I only put it together like after many times, and I see the plaque everywhere. I see the plaque on the subway. I see it in various places. I see them
Mm-hmm.
next to these 18th century and these 19th century sort of giant European monuments that are just like really overpowering in their aesthetic. And then to the side, I see somebody just like installed this Lujan statue or idol, basically. And so so you mentioned Evita Peron and Juan Perón, and these are really interesting figures because I've tracked the welfare state. The welfare state started with Bismarck, And Bismarck was a Prussian guy who basically unified Germany. And what he realized was in the 1850s and the European revolutions was that unless you did something about the communist uh, demand for rights and wages and all these things that are essentially like necessary in a modern society. And so Bismarck gave that to them
I'll interrupt you there.
as a conservative,
Yes.
as somebody from the royalty elites, as somebody from the monarchy who was just like, I don't know if he was actually a monarch. I have to go back and look at that. But he was like, I have to, in order for me to govern this large modern nation state, I have to appease this sector of the population. And so he created the welfare
Surely.
state. And then Perón, I think, took it to the
A
peak.
whole new level.
Yeah, so did FDR. But yeah, go for it.
I'll steal the thunder from that, because nowadays no one is worshipping Bismarck.
Yes,
nor
interesting.
no,
Interesting.
no,
Yeah.
no one cares.
Yeah.
No one remembers.
Yeah.
And the same with the Mustache Man or the Mussolini. No one
Yes.
remembers about them.
Yeah.
Well, the only one that has survived some, and just barely, is Franco. The only fascist that ever survived the 20th century, that nowadays people still kind of like, some people kind of remember him, is Franco.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that's the most interesting thing, because here in Argentina we have political figures, and let's steal the thunder. We have even stole the thunder from the communists. We have the Che Guevara. If I see an Antifa an Antifa march on the United States, many of the people of the communists that will be marching will have a Che. Che. And he's Argentinian.
Mm-hmm.
And no one, and people is starting to lose, like, he stole the thunder out of Castro, which is amazing. We Argentinians are we shape up culture without realizing, because our extreme way that we kind of like embed ourselves into the culture, we live that with our bones. And I'll give you the most important example of the Argentinian culture. There were two football players that shaped generations. Like, they shaped entire generations of young people that imitated them. And the first one is, well, everyone knows, the hand of God. So the first one. And the second one is Messi. And an entire generations of young male people, male and women, just kind of fit into that narrative of yes.
And so there's a few things there. There's one Messi, and it's Maradona, right? Maradona is the hand of God. Yeah,
Maradona is the hand of God. Yes.
Why do they call him the hand of God?
Because in the World Cup that we won, he made a goal, which was basically cheating, because he touched the ball with his hand, but the referee didn't notice. So it's the hand of God, because he cheated.
Great. Yeah.
So that kind of like, cheating, criollo way of being embedded for 30 years. Like, that way of like getting away with cheating was, still is a very Argentinian thing to do.
Yeah.
And it was all because of Maradona scored that goal, and he got away with it.
There's a lot of interesting things he said there, particularly related to our previous conversation about culture. This is great territory of how do you create culture, because you just named a few, and we'll go over them, which is like the K-pop, the Maradona, Messi. We talked about Brazil. We talked about sort of Perón. Perón created a whole new welfare state. I guess it relates to that power thing, but it's like it's so amorphous and not solid. We were talking about science. We were talking about measurement and all these different things. Science, like you measure things, you observe, you empirical evidence, you track the story through the experiments, and then you find an explanation. Whereas culture is like this strange thing. like the Dubai chocolate one is a really good example because some people have some alternative explanations that you may have heard of why Dubai chocolate
Yes.
got so popular.
Hmm.
And so so and now
I
Argentina here.
do.
Yeah.
I do have an idea of why culture
Mm,
shapes that way. The way that culture shapes is pretty much regarding the level of individual engagement
mm,
and
mm. It's a game.
transformation. Yes, it's dynamical. The way of the it's set up in the way that individuals engage with something, and how does that specific cultural trait shapes up individuals' personalities. And here in Argentina is we take that to a whole new level.
Mm,
For I usually like kind of like separate the wheat from the chaff of girls, of Argentinian girls, regarding the music that they listen to, because I know if they listen to certain bands, that girl sees love in a very specific way,
and is this
and
art?
you cannot change that.
And this is Argentine bands, right? Oh, I got to get
Yes,
into
of course
Argentine
they
music.
are.
Yeah, interesting. Because
Don't get
Argentina,
with that Rolinga. No.
because Argentina has been resistant, at least somewhat. I mean, I don't think there was any country in the world that was totally resistant to the spread of American pop, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is Argentina pretty resistant to that? Like,
Oh, 100%. We
yeah,
have a humongous scene
mm,
of every subculture that you
yeah,
ever thought of.
yeah,
And we take a subculture and we reshape it.
yeah.
Actually, nowadays, if I have to embed myself in one culture of Argentinian subcultures, is that I'm in the underworld.
Mm,
I do love, and how does the
mm,
underworld Argentinian scene looks like?
mm.
Well, we have basically integrated blues
Oh, interesting.
from the blues and West Coast, and kind of like the Chicago rap movement,
Yeah,
the old Chicago, the Rust
yeah,
Belt movement of rap,
yeah,
which was a humongous culture of
yeah.
our of the United States, and we have reshaped that and given the Argentinian personality, and we have personalities of Argentina we have that have transformed and joined
Uh, uh,
the American rap Rust Belt culture with Borges. And you listen to rap when they have blues, when they have jazz, and at the same time they cite Borges in the same song.
that's
And
hilarious.
I'm like, and me as someone who is very interested in the topics of consciousness and what shapes individuals and emotionality, I certainly get blown away. Like I get my mind blow up
Mm,
because it's amazing. And I see these young kids which are barely scraping the surface, where they're not that scientifically as I am.
yeah,
I'm a little bit of a monster in that
yeah.
sense. uh and I see them and they're shapen by it, and they are introduced by that, and they do vibrate in that
Mm,
frequency, and that's amazing
okay.
to see and live by.
Yeah, there's some very interesting points there, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
get in because there's a lot of technology stuff we can talk about, and I think
Mm-hmm.
not many people are well versed enough in both consciousness, culture, psychology, and also technology to get into the
Yeah, for sure.
just tsunami wave that is headed our way in terms
Oh,
of the
yes.
changes to culture in terms of AI. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right now I would describe it as a slop. It's all slop, right? AI is just a whole bunch of slop that is invested that is starting
Oh,
to.
no, it's not.
Well,
No,
no,
it's not.
but I don't think that that's where the final product is. But
Oh,
most of
no.
the cultural sort of like weapons of it are right now are just like how much slop can we just put on the internet, and like how many
Oof.
YouTube videos can we create? How much Italian brain rot can we create? And I'm not saying that all of. I'm sure there are good artists who actually can take AI to create good art, and I probably didn't even see it because I just assumed that it was art, right? But
Yes.
that's not. It's like we got a tragedy of the commons type of thing where it's like everybody's going and creating AI slop, and it's LinkedIn. It's LinkedIn. It's like just like it's just slop everywhere. And so what do you think? Like, how is culture going to react to this? How does it fit into the frameworks we've been discussing?
Very interesting question, and I love that. That's a topic that I think daily. Let me tell you that, and I'll give you the answer. The cultural systems, just as any natural system, is not a solid or static
Mm,
state. It's
mm,
a dynamic equation. It's a
mm,
dynamic state.
mm,
And how does culture shapes in dynamic systems, or how does dynamic systems work?
mm,
They transform equilibriums into trajectories.
mm,
What do I mean by this? What do I mean by this? For the example of the culture, we have seen the world first centralize into American culture, and after that, the world is branching out and transforming, just as the example that we just gave, transforming the American culture and spin it into something new.
mm,
So, how does that differential equation looks like? Well, it's an oscillating, it's a
mm,
sine wave.
mm,
First you get centralization, then you get decentralization.
mm.
And what do I see about AI currently? Well, AI currently is a humongous centralizing force, because, well, you gave the example of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the perfect example of what does a bunch of people just prompting, give me five whatever examples into ChatGPT and thinking that they're making a wave
Content.
into their professional content
Yeah,
looks like.
yeah,
Because we all know the meme.
yeah,
It all looks the same.
yeah, yeah,
What
yeah, yeah.
what kind of value does that
Mm,
gives
mm,
you? Nothing.
mm.
So for sure, when it all started a couple of years ago, it all looked so innovative. And the people that did it, they were rewarded.
Yeah, yeah,
They were rewarded. They were rewarded as gurus of their little 100 people professional
yeah,
circle. But nowadays, you just look like a clown.
yeah.
Uh, that is that is very interesting. And why? Because we're seeing what would usually take generations into years,
Mm,
less than a
mm,
decade. We
mm.
have seen the LinkedIn example is very interesting. That's one of the effects of AI, which is velocity in the way that we transform that sine wave.
Mm,
The LinkedIn has become so centralized in what people think and publish there
yeah,
that it's just a meme and no one cares to read, because you have read it all already. Just if you read one post of LinkedIn,
yeah,
you have read it all.
yeah,
No one cares.
yeah. Well,
And that,
but that's the craziest
yes,
part because LinkedIn is such an interesting example because it goes back to the U.S. culture where U.S. corporate manager culture. One of the main things that U.S. did was we really innovated on management culture. So for a long time, the people in UAE were like, "Well, let's hire some Americans because they know how to manage people, right?" Like,
yes, but
so
how
yeah,
does that work? Well, that's basically what Taylor did in the
uh-huh, yeah,
1920s
yeah,
and
yeah,
Ford started implementing in the 30s, which is basically a tree.
mm,
It's
uh,
basically a tree. And how does that
mm,
work? Well, that's centralization. So what you see in LinkedIn is the extreme end of what the Taylor and American
yeah,
way of work has basically end up being, which is the same thing over and over and over again.
yeah,
And
slop.
and if you go yes,
So and it's manufactured slop and it's the assembly line for content basically. What we've come to sort of discover is that LinkedIn is basically what happens when you treat the beauty of which the written language and the forms of media can be transformed into just like a cookie cutter, like just the stamp, like oh just like stamp it out, just put out the content,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. And that's what's
Exactly.
LinkedIn now, yeah, yeah,
And you interestingly, by accident,
yeah.
actually named the same situation, the same how you say the same trajectory
Mm,
in the way that it used to be.
mm,
That a company would bring Americans to manage,
mm.
and what would American do? An American would bring that cookie cutter
Yeah,
recipe into that company, and it would work, of course, because they didn't had any better. They didn't know any better,
yeah,
so
interesting.
it would work. So what you're seeing, or what you see in LinkedIn, is the extreme end of
Mm-hmm.
that cookie cutter assembly line logic in cultural shaping in companies.
And this is what I like about Argentina. We need to get to the AI part. I think that will be
Mm.
really interesting. But I like how we can
Mm-hmm.
go back and forth through history. But Argentina seems to totally reject the cookie cutter approach to manufacturing, which actually this goes right back to AI because right now, which makes it uh have a serious problem right now, right? Because it's like
Mm-hmm.
Argentina is sort of like you had prosperity in the late 1800s as the United States did, and then there was divergence, and
Mm-hmm.
Argentina lost its prosperity, and it's sort of like ancient lore. You go everywhere, there's ancient lore everywhere, which is really beautiful in ways
Yes.
that were tore down in my country to put up suburbs and other nonsense. But so you've got this lore, but also in the people we've been talking about, it's sort of introverted. They don't really claim the culture because it's all felt through the emotions, and they don't really view it as this sort of innovation, even though the emotion is really powerful and creative. And then we're at the tail end of where the U.S. dominance in manufacturing, and everybody still is in that mindset, and they're like, Argentina can't do this, right?
Yes.
Can't put itself into a cookie cutter type of thing. But I think in the next 5 to 10 years, the Argentine way of life, of like family, of mate, of creativity and art and all these different things, and asado, like all these things are like very like relational based and creative.
Yes.
And those things
Mm-hmm.
feel like they're going to become more important. And the northern world, particularly in the United States, we attach so much meaning, not just to work, but like the bullshit of work, like the cookie cutter, like
The cookie
moving.
cutter,
Yeah, yeah,
write me this report. It
yeah,
has to be 30 pages and 5,000 words. No, not one less, not one more.
yeah.
Yes,
And that's
I
not.
worked for an American companies, and it's always the same. Yes. Let me tell you what do I see
Mm,
about, and we'll connect two topics: their culture, AI, and the company that the two extremes that
yep,
we are kind of defining in
yep,
this conversation, which are the extreme cookie cutter of the United States and the extreme chaotic nature of Argentinians.
yeah.
I think that if we want to get the best out of what AI is offering us, we have to get into the middle point.
Mm,
And it is very important that Argentinians start to get some recipe. You have to bring order in chaos, because if we give
mm,
anyone the access to, for example, I'll give you another extreme example, and I love this example of how does AI will shape the world. And I thought, I think that it was a TED talk that I saw. I don't remember. It says we could have two ends with AI. The first one is Mordor, the Palantir,
yeah,
which is absolute control and centralization, because an AI saw that you blinked twice, and that means that you're hating the government. Now you have a target on your back. That's one way of ending of this movie can end. And the other one is, well, everyone has GPT-8 in
mm,
their local computer, and everyone can make a nuclear weapon with their 3D printer if they wanted to. So the world turns into complete chaos, and nothing gets done.
yeah,
Right? We get into the anarchy of
yeah,
things. No one can agree on anything, and everyone can do anything. So we
yeah,
go into anarchy, and the world ends because, I don't know, some guy was bitter and made a super virus,
yeah,
and and
yeah,
and
yeah,
and, and, and that was it.
yeah. So we have
So
those two ends, and but are you proposing a third way in between the both? Because I don't see it.
yes.
I don't see any way. I know most people think it's number one with Palantir and Mordor and everything like that. I don't see how any of it doesn't lead to number two. Like I don't think there's any way to stop number two, right? Or maybe
Oh
it's through
yeah.
culture.
It seems that both things are inevitable.
Yeah,
It's so interesting because it's so contradictory at the
yeah,
same time. Like,
yeah,
you're telling me that either no one has a computer in a super centralized mortar kind of society, or if you even have a laptop, you will create a super weapon
yeah,
and we
yeah,
all die.
yeah,
So it seems very interesting, and we'll see how this develops. But of course, if we want to if we want to get past this century, we'll have to find a way to equilibrate those two ends and get into a 45 degree of the two axes. We'll
Yeah.
have to get into the middle of that angle, because else, well, we're we're not having a future as a society, not one living worth living for.
Okay, well, you just opened up a really interesting pathway as a society, which I there's two authors who have came to the same descriptor called the Patchwork Age, and they're
Mm-hmm.
two completely separate writers. One of whom is Paul Spencer,
Oh.
mostly on Twitter, and another one is Curtis Yarvin. But they both basically describe the same thing, which is the Patchwork Age. In the Patchwork Age is the sort of like what would happen if it's the Holy Roman Empire or medieval Europe of just like total decentralization to the city state level, uh, but with crazy transformative technology. And so it all feels like
Mm.
as a society, it's not going to be possible to actually have a society, right? I was just thinking about this today. It's just like there is no common conversation anymore, right? Like I think both of us share a conversation because both of us have
Mm-hmm.
a sort of diverse set of interests, and that
Mm-hmm.
allows us to. But give it 5 to 10 years, like, but
Mm.
our understandings, our information pathways are going to diverge, and we can kind of come like this and like share them. But they're just going to it's going to be a Cambrian explosion of like. So there is no society anymore, right?
I have seen an AI creator
Mm,
on Instagram, which I love,
mm,
which basically sets up a future where human gets developed wetware, which is basically everyone can have multiple limbs,
mm,
and you can have sensors. You can have the eyesights of a cat,
yeah,
or you can have the memory of a supercomputer, or you can live 1,000 lives in a second. Yeah, sure. Let's get into this example. And one of the things that resonate me the most with is that it's a moment that says, "You really think that connections still exist, honey? Please, we're just two different hardwares which will sync up for a frame.
yeah. Interesting.
How can we agree what reality is
Yeah,
when everyone is running its own
yeah,
physics engine in
yeah,
its
yeah,
head?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
we are all rats trapped in their own maze.
But I
How
mean,
can you even think? Yes.
but it's always been that way, right? Like it's always like we have this culture, we have culture for thousands of years, which is just like the culture has this sort of dominant mediating force where you just like I think that's always existed, like what you just said. But we had
Mm-hmm.
these cultural mediating forces of we've got the written word and we create the scripture, go read the
Mm-hmm.
scripture. Oh, you don't understand the
Yes.
scripture, you can't read the scripture, go talk to that guy, that
Come,
guy knows what's
go
going
talk
on.
to that guy. That guy,
Yeah.
that guy will shape you up into
Yeah.
the
he'll
what we expect.
he'll
Yes.
set you straight, and like
He'll tell you straight. Do this. Do not
that's
do that.
disappearing. It feels like it's good, or it's already disappeared. Maybe, or
Well, it,
maybe,
it
yeah,
already it already did.
yeah,
It already did in around, well, what, 2000s. The
yeah,
culture already does not exist.
yeah,
Centralization is already dead, and is long being dead. What I think will carry us into the future is the setups of agreements that we as individuals set up to live a more fulfilling individualistic life without without stepping on the other person
yeah,
freedom,
yeah,
right? And there must we will get into
yeah,
this question very very shortly, which is, which collective rules do we set up? Can we give access
yeah.
to GPT-8 to everyone, or maybe just the decaffeinated version of GPT-7? So everyone can have GPT-7, they can create amazing things, but just not nuclear weapons.
But
Okay, so
how does that how can like because China is going to release it, right? Like as soon as there's an economic incentive to release, or not even an economic, it's as soon as there's a subversive, because China's whole open source thing is subversive.
yes, it
They're
is
not, yeah, yeah,
subversive.
yeah. So like they're going to subvert whatever regulations we or individuals like. There will be ways to get around it, right?
Well, that's we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
see
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
China does. I won't speak on the behalf of the Chinese people,
Yeah.
but the rest of the world is already kind of, you know, kind of scratching their heads and saying, okay, we just cannot do this because it will destroy everything else.
Yeah, interesting. And I imagine China does have that self, like it's because it's crazy because it's like mutual assured destruction, but at the individual level. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, and it doesn't, and it, like part of its resources, part like there, and there's a new form which is, so there's anybody can create their nuclear bomb, but you need to uranium to create a nuclear bomb, and that's kind of like not like, even if you have the knowledge of how to create a nuclear bomb, you're probably not going to do it. The other kind of crazy thing that is popping up, which we've never dealt with, although in 2020 we had a little bit of of our first sort of insight into it, which is a
Mm-hmm.
wet lab. A wet lab seems like that is going to be able to, like, people are going to be in their garages, probably in the next 5 years, but probably in 10 or 20 years, they're going to start creating viruses. And
Well,
anybody, yeah,
you don't actually have to go that further. That's been possible since the GPT-4. So
to create a virus, but well, to the
yes,
knowledge.
actually, yes, the knowledge is open source. The equipment you can buy it on Amazon, and if you want the sample of the bubonic plague, you can get it on a website.
Yeah.
So there's still no regulation regarding that topic, and I am actually kind of like, as time moves on, and well, we are on GPT 5.2, we're Opus 4.5, like there's not much time left. Like people can do that on their basement with all the equipment already available. You know which is the fastest technology regarding which is called vertical integration. What that means is, you know, which branch of technology does integrate the fastest
Mm,
in all its competitors
mm.
is biotechnology.
Why? Go into that. I've never heard this before. This is
I
really,
don't I don't I don't really know the whys,
yeah.
but I just know that if you have a competitive advantage in biotechnology, let's say that you can do A or B thing in a super level 5 lab, how much time will take you to, well, be able to do the same in your garage right now? For AI, it's kind of hard because if
Ah,
you want to create your own GPT-4, you actually need a server.
ah,
uh, Myself, someone that is having its own workstation, which is tens of thousands of dollars, I can still not create my own GPT-4. But if I had the same money and knowledge in biotechnology, I could already do the same level of tech
yeah.
that was used to develop the vaccines of the 2020s with
The mRNA.
COVID, which is amazing.
So you're saying, yeah, specifically the mRNA. Okay, there's a bunch of questions I'm going to go research later because that's a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting part that I haven't looked into
Mm-hmm.
yet. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about your new setup. What made you want to kind of create your own supercomputer?
I'm a nerd. Short, fast
Yeah.
answer. But the long story is that I'm working on several projects, and I'm starting to set up my own AI lab.
Mm,
I will be very, like, the amount of capabilities that you can make. It's always limited by hardware.
yep.
So I'll get into what I will call a level 1. I'll call it. I'll start to tier it because I haven't seen people set up levels, but
Cool.
let's be the first one.
Yep.
So I'm gonna set up a tier 1 AI lab, which means that I'm going to be able to fine tune models, create extremely lightweight models for a very uh, uh, how is this, specific tasks, and I will sell them to different companies or different clients which need them. This is a very interesting capability, and which helps me set up uh, a differentiation against other competitors. And also, it gives me the capability of processing huge amounts of data. So I'll be able to create humongous big data companies in the comfort of my living room. Well, if I can live with the noise and the air conditioning running all day long, I'll be able to do that. Which is 100% very interesting. And I got to the level which my quantitative hedge fund project is in a level that it would used to take, I don't know, a dozen of PhD level
Mm, mm,
scientists to
mm,
create.
mm,
I have done it all. Of course, I'm a huge nerd. I do spend a humongous amount of time on it, but I've been able to achieve at least the same level of infrastructure all by myself in 4 years,
mm,
which is amazing, like
mm,
beyond amazing. Like I can read papers and I investigate and I study the math. Then I can easily sketch mark the things with Gemini, and then once the math is set up, of course, I still not in that level of humongous technology, but I can set up the math really quickly, and then after that, I can just code it with Gemini, and
mm,
and it works.
mm,
So it's amazing. So if I can count with the horsepower of a Threadripper ninth generation Pro and 64 cores of pure juice, pure computational juice, I can create my own algorithmic hedge fund top level world level. Yes, I can do that, and I will. And I'm actually just waiting for my hardware to arrive. But
so, and before we get into actually what the hardware is, what are what
yes.
in your evolving tier? What are the other tiers of the AI labs?
Oof. Okay. So I would say that tier two is a lab that is already not just creating fine-tuned models, but is also capable of creating hardware embedded into that model. For example, these companies that are creating gadgets with AI, and they are running AI swarms, and they are solving uh, I don't know. I wouldn't say bigger problems, but more in a enterprise level. They are creating new types of data. They're not just web scraping the data. They are creating their own data, or they are creating submodels capable of being very good at such as computer vision, which takes a humongous amount of computing. This would be not someone who has a big workstation. This would be someone who has a living room, a room dedicated to servers and racks of computers, which I don't know, we can value up to $1 million or $2 million in hardware equipment easily. And you can do that nowadays in your own apartment, surely. I mean, if you have the money, the time, the engineering capability, you can do that. And that would put you up into the big guys, or
Mm,
well, the middle guys kind
yeah,
of
the middle,
level.
because then tier three is the foundational labs that already exist, right?
I think that tier three, there must be another level where
Maybe another
you're
tier in there.
managing,
Robotics.
maybe another tier. Robotics
Robotics
could
robotics
be.
is going to start to merge with this, right? I actually did a really good interview that I can send you
Mm-hmm.
later yesterday with a guy who's working at this company called Turing. And Turing is one of the top three data problems. And now that definitely I confirmed it with him, the main bottleneck is no longer, it's not energy, it's not GPUs, it's data. It's high quality data
Oh,
for these types of things. And there are
yeah.
several, like the first generation of data labelers were companies like Scale AI, and they were really bad data because they were just vacuuming up the whole internet and then having people in Argentina or India or all these places basically label the data, but those people didn't know what they were talking about. They couldn't verify it. So now they're running into that data problem. He said something really interesting about RL environments. RL environments are really the thing. Like,
Yes.
yeah, are you getting into RL environments or?
Of course,
Yeah.
yes, that's what I'm doing with my fund in a very much
Oh,
uh
interesting. Cool.
not in a 3D. I'm like, for
Oh,
example,
on
you can
math.
see that
You're doing it on
you can
math?
do that. I'm doing it on math. Yeah,
Whoa.
exactly. Without touching, I don't know, geometric spaces or
Geometric
uh
spaces. Wait, why?
yes.
What? It does geometric spaces? Do quantitative hedge funds use geometric spaces for their funds? Is that a real
I,
thing?
I I would bet that they
Yeah.
do. I would bet that we're giving some big hedge fund the idea right now,
what?
because properly, if we can, for example, I remember this guy that was like smoking a pipe when he made this video, and he was like, hey, we can, if we can put a satellite on the moon and measure the distance between the moon and Earth,
Yeah.
and how does the distance between the moon and Earth affect the tidal waves in the world,
Yeah.
and how does the tidal waves in the northeastern Pacific Ocean alters the reproduction cycles of, I don't know, tuna, and how does will affect the production of tuna companies,
Yeah.
and we can price that and put
Yeah.
that on
Yeah.
Polymarket.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
that
But
would be
what is you,
a next level.
what is, oh, so that's the geometric thing, is that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
got it, interesting, like the moon, the reality is geometric structure which can
For
help you
exact,
to do things interesting. But
yes.
why doesn't, so what, like, I don't know a lot about math. I want to get better at it. And the cool thing about LLMs is I don't think I need to do the math anymore, because the LLM and the computer can do the math, but I can understand what the math means, or
Mm-hmm.
the symbolism, or the, like, I can grok what math does, in order to talk with the LLM about it. So the, it, because you said you're not to the geometric stuff,
Mm-hmm.
what comes before the geometric stuff? Is there like an it, because it's non-Euclidean? There's something about,
Yes. Before, like, the geometric stuff, the stuff
yeah.
is the wet dream of anyone in data, which is having the hard data.
Okay. Wow.
We could say that the geometric stuff is having the hard data,
Yeah.
which in a robotics kind of lab environment or example would be these guys having their own test robots in a garage and making the robots do X and Y task and measuring and gathering that data, or simulating their own physics engine as good
Yeah. Okay.
as
Got
good
it.
as I
Back to
can,
RL
and
environments. Yeah. Yeah.
trying to simulate that environment and trying to replicate it the most accurate way possible. That would be the good example for robotics. I think that's very more tangible. And for finance, let's think about what we do. A level before that is basically use very, very, very complex mathematical models. Well, actually, the biggest supercomputers in the world, up to, I don't know what are they doing right now, but up
Like,
to, I don't know, the 2020s,
yeah.
the biggest world supercomputers were used to emulate and trying to uh, accurately predict the climate.
Yeah.
The
Interesting.
climate is
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
most complex system in that we can touch right
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Like modeling how the clouds will interact with all the farts that people in Buenos Aires
There's a lot of farts
doing
here.
right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of farts here. It's an extremely hard problem, like
Mm,
GPT supercomputer kind of problem.
mm.
So, for example, that's probably the big breakthrough that we're going to get once quantum computing gets out, because quantum computing helps you in modeling something that the reality cannot model right now, and you cannot model it.
Yeah.
Like, that does not exist because it's in the future, which is, that's the difference between something that's deterministic
Yeah.
and something that is my bad. The word just lost my mouth.
Probabilistic?
I just no. It's called stochastic.
Oh, interesting.
So what comes before geometric systems is an stochastic model, which you can use to predict or kind of assign probabilities to a certain event,
Interesting.
and how that event will shape the world in time, right?
That's interesting. Okay.
That's what comes before, and of course it's a problem as big as the world. So
Yeah.
we haven't solved that one yet. So
No, I haven't solved it. There's a few things. There's one that might be interesting for you to dig into if you're already not aware of it, is Niantic Spatial. So Niantic Spatial was the company that basically figured out Pokemon Go. But that was actually most people don't know Pokemon Go was really about mapping, and that Pokemon Go allowed for that company to build really high quality mapping data sets. Once LLMs showed up, they were like, oh, we need a world model. And so they're actually the people who I now think are going to be one of the contenders for actually building the world model because of these data sets that they've created. And that world
Wow.
model goes back to the RL environment we were just talking about. Yep.
There is Niantic Spatial.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep.
This is amazing. Okay.
Yep. And then the other thing was, I know what the supercomputers are now doing. So the Trump admin basically said that all of the classified data from all the fusion, we've got 17 national laboratories in the United States. All of those are now basically all that data is going to OpenAI, Claude, and Anthropic. I'm sorry, no, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. And so all the classified data is about to get vacuumed up into LLMs in order to do non-human in the loop science. So they're which is really interesting because I know from my angle, I wouldn't trust an LLM to do anything without a human in the loop, but that's the technology that I have access to, and the government usually has technology that I don't have access to and nobody else has access to, and I imagine that they do have access to something. So that might also be why all the people in San Francisco think that AGI is really close, is that so that's what all the laboratories and their supercomputers are doing now. Now I want to go into more depth to understand what those supercomputers are composed of. But yeah,
Yes.
so we got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah, sure. You want to get into the hardware? Sadly,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first
we
part
totally,
of what you just said kind of
yeah.
numbed my mind. If you want to speak about something a little bit more
Yeah.
terrestrial,
Yeah.
more tangible
Yeah.
for a simple Argentinian guy, that would
Yeah.
be great.
Your
I
well,
cannot
your
help you
hardware.
with the
Let's talk
rest.
about your hardware. What are you building?
Okay, so I'm building my own workstation
Mm,
for my quantitative hedge funds, and my own big data LLM kind of company.
mm,
I'm building a water cooled, a water cooled custom made system,
mm,
which will help me out get all the juice stable,
mm.
get the juice out of a new Threadripper processors that just came out.
What is a Threadripper?
They are the biggest semi-industrial processors that AMD produces. They are the size of a small phone, and
Wow.
they're humongous. They will occupy the space of like half your hand,
Yeah.
and they can consume up to 600 watts or even more.
Okay, wait. Did you already get your VRAM bought? Have you already got your VRAM? Because I know that OpenAI cornered the market on VRAM, so it might actually get much harder to buy this stuff. Did
Yeah.
you already get it?
No,
No.
no. Sadly, right now I'm kind of suffering the prices increases. I don't mind.
So
I don't mind, but
can you explain
mm,
more what it is, what's happening? Are the prices increasing? Is it possible
yes,
to get still?
yes. I mean, we can still get RAMs. You just have to pay for them,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
which
But
are have tripled in price in the last 3 months. So
whoa.
a RAM that I used to get for $600, $400, which were actually data center level, now they are around $2,000 a pop.
Oh man. Oh man.
So we're gonna see how I solve that problem. I'm still
I'm
kind of
curious
like,
to
but
how Apple solves it, right? Because it's like Apple tries to build these things for consumer anybody to use them, right? And if the whole market just gets collapsed, like does that slow down their production? Like, are they going to not be able to do it? Yeah.
I think that it all depends on it all depends. I don't think because Apple designs its own RAM chips, and they
Uh,
probably have their own uh like the way.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's divide this question into two branches.
Yeah.
How does the silicon industry work? And
Mm,
the second one is, why do I need this processor, and how do I set up a computer around it?
mm,
Because
mm,
for the first
mm.
question, the first question, it's kind of, I'll jump start it as fast as I can. It it basically, all the GPU, Nvidia, AMD, Apple, they design their chips,
Mm.
but all the chips are produced in forges, which are
Mm.
all 90% of them are located in Taiwan.
Mm.
Um, so basically, they set up this blueprint, and Taiwan, given the technology that they can handle, will tell you, okay, I can produce this with this certain amount of quality and this certain amount of certainty. So for the Apple problem, they won't have problem because they probably have their own contractor already
Yeah.
set up,
Yeah.
and their production is already steady,
Yeah.
so they won't have problems. But for
Anyone
the
else who?
RAM and
Yeah.
VRAM, yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
for the other
Oh,
producers
because
which compete.
yeah, you're building a computer. So you're building a computer, so it needs to be custom. So there are a bunch of like custom merchants that you go to in order to get.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Providers and
Yeah.
such.
Yeah.
So, and that's the biggest problem, because I still, although I am a semi-industrial workstation,
Yeah.
almost
Semi-industrial.
semi-industrial is
Yeah.
almost a data center level.
Yeah.
Still, I do still face the bottlenecks of having to face down all the consumer and market. And how does, so that's the main issue, and that's why I'm having to deal with all these price increases. So going to the second question, how do you set up a workstation, semi-industrial workstation? Well, it all is about equilibrium. Why? In my MacBook Pro M1, which I have right now, I do have a very powerful processor. But the problem is that any computation that you're doing in your CPU or your GPU or whatever, it translates into heat.
Mm,
Everything that you
okay.
do, every 2 plus 2 that you do in your calculator, it ends up as heat. Like,
Mm,
the calculator will show you the result, but the power that was used to produce that calculation is just heat, because it's a bunch of light bulbs just turning off and up uh, billions and billions of times and trillions of microseconds. So that's basically what a processor is. It's just a humongous set of light bulbs just turning up and off
yeah.
extremely fast in a very, very small place. And all that heat. So the key to create your own workstation, it's all about how do you manage first the energy input. How do you make sure that the energy that you're getting into the computer is stable? It does match the requirements of the energy that you're going to burn. And secondly is how you're going to get that energy out, because all that energy will transform into heat. And a chip is, I mean, this chip is humongous for chip standards, but still just the size of like
Yeah.
half your palm.
Yeah.
And in that thing, it can get the juice of a big housing, like a big stove that you use to heat up food.
Yeah.
Like, probably in your kitchen right now, you have a stove that consumes less energy than this CPU. But the problem is that you cannot get this CPU very hot because the components will burn, right? Those light bulbs cannot get 100 into hundreds of degrees of temperature. So you need a whole custom loop of water cooled, specifically made to go around and cycle the heat and expose it outside. So you
Mm,
can run very big workloads in a very stable way, so you can actually get the juice out. If I try to do the same with my MacBook Pro, sure, the silicon will give me the juice for about 5 minutes, and after that the CPU will just regulate itself, and it'll just give me 20% of the power, because any energy that comes in, it will transform into heat, and if
mm.
I cannot get it out, then it's just not computing, it's just not working.
Man, feels like that because it's so funny because heat is something that is really important in the winter to heat your house, right? Like Why can't you
Yes.
just set up a data center here and a data center in the US and just like switch them between like if it's a winter here, winter there, and just
I
use the
love
yeah,
I love your logic. The problem is that it
too
doesn't
much heat.
like all the heat exchange that you're trying to output
Yeah.
out of that little tiny
Yeah.
silicon is just is the heat that you would use to heat up your entire house. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
chip will
Yeah, one
produce
chip.
enough energy to heat up my entire department during the winter. And the problem is that you
Yeah.
can surely you need the heat dissipation capacity to move that heat out of the little silicon and into the house.
Yeah.
And once it is into the house, you had to expose it outside because that's a whole new problem. So yes, you can set up a data center in the south part of Argentina and North Canada and
Yeah.
expose the heat
Yeah.
into
Okay.
the
Yeah, yeah.
cold
Yeah.
winter, and that would be
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Surely,
Yeah, yeah.
surely,
Okay. Yeah.
but you still need to get the heat out of the silicon and outside, and that is a
Oh,
humongous
got
problem.
it. So that's the cooling. The cooling is just the immediate problem of having it
The
in the
immediate
silicon,
problem
and you just need to get it out of the silicon.
out of the silicon and through radiators to the outside, and that is a whole new problem.
And that's the whole problem. Everybody's talking about the data centers in space. They all say like, "Oh, it's not going to work because in space you need a radiator in order to get the heat because it's a vacuum, right?"
Yes, and the big problem in space is that heat transforms into waves, which, since there is no resistance, it transforms into movement. So if you have just one heat exchanger in space, well, your data center is gonna go away.
Mm,
Like it's
mm.
gonna it's gonna use that as a propulsor and just get away of orbit. So so,
Man,
so you have to equilibrate it in there.
what a crazy conversation. Well, thank you so much. How can our listener? Do you write about this? Are you going to write about this anywhere?
Oh, um, I haven't done it, but it would be great. I'll start to get into that once I have time. Once I finish handling all the nuances of getting this microchip from Malaysia to my place. I'll let you know.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you too, Stuart.
Hold on.